Two spies slipped into Jericho under cover of night. A woman named Rahab hid them, chose the God of Israel's light. She said, I know the Lord has given you this land. The terror of your God has fallen on every hand. She lowered them down by the cord from her window high. Swear to me you'll spare my family when the armies march by. The Lord fights for his people, his word will never fail. Though the walls stand tall and mighty, they will tremble and they will pale. By faith the harlot was redeemed, by covenant blood made clean. When the people walk in obedience, the impossible is seen. Priest stepped into the Jordan with the ark held high. The water stood in a heap, dry ground for the host to cross by. 12 stones from the riverbed, a memorial for all time, that the hand of the Lord is mighty, his wonders still shine. From slavery to promise, from wilderness to war, a new generation rose up to follow the Lord. Circumcised again at Gilgal, kept the Passover feast. The reproach of Egypt rolled away. The captain of the Lord's host appeared to the priest. Take off your shoes, this ground is holy. The battle belongs to me. March around the city silent, once each day. For 6 days you'll see. On the 7th day, 7 times, with the trumpets blast, then shout, for I have given Jericho into your hand at last. The Lord fights for his people, his word will never fail. Though the walls stand tall and mighty, they will tremble and they will pale. By faith the harlot was redeemed, by covenant blood made clean. When the people walk in obedience, the impossible is seen. 7 priests, 7 trumpets, 7 days of marching round. Silent feet on the 7th morning till the final trumpet sound. And the shout went up to heaven like the roar of the sea. The walls came crashing, tumbling down. Total victory, not by sword alone, not by human might, but by the breath of the living God. On the 7th night, the Lord fights for his people. Rahab's line preserved, a scarlet cord still hanging, a testimony undeserved. From Jordan's crossing dry to Jericho laid low, obedience brings the breakthrough. Let the people of God know. Walls will fall, walls will fall, walls will fall. When we trust and obey, the Lord does it all.
There's your reminder. Call back to yesterday, reading Joshua 2. We only got through the first part of that. A little teaser for what's to come. Today is Thursday, July 9th, 2026. Welcome back to the Two Witnesses Live. I'm your host, Watchful. Thank you for joining me as we keep our eyes open and watch what's unfolding in real time. The world is moving fast, and today we have major developments on multiple fronts. From the escalating situation with Iran to political positioning in both parties to battles over truth, borders, and accountability right here at home. So let's dive in. The shaky ceasefire with Iran is officially over. President Trump, speaking at the NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey, declared it finished after Iran attacked commercial tankers and ships transiting the Strait of Hormuz. The United States responded swiftly. CENTCOM confirmed strikes on approximately 80 to 90 Iranian military targets, including air defense systems, coastal surveillance, missile and drone storage sites, naval capabilities, and military logistics infrastructure along Iran's southern coastline. Cities like Bashir and Chabahar, Bandar Abbas, and Sariq felt the impact. Reports indicate 14 people were killed and dozens wounded in the Iranian strikes over recent days. Of course, Iran hit back, claiming the attacks on U.S. bases and strategic centers in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar. Tehran is threatening grave consequences, but as we've seen, the United States, under this administration, is delivering consequences that put aggressors in a very difficult position. President Trump was direct and unapologetic. He called Iran's leaders scum and sick people. He said, "We can play games, but I'm not sure I want to make a deal. Let's just finish the job." Later, he made clear the U.S. would probably hit them hard again, and that America is holding Iran accountable. Meanwhile, the slain Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei, is being buried today in his hometown of Mashhad after massive funeral processions. Analysts note what many of us have observed for years. This regime is almost impossible to deal with in good faith. It's just their nature. Like the scorpion in the old fable. Their government is fractured with competing factions, and nobody is quite sure who's really in charge at any moment. The ceasefire looks more and more like a brief pause before finishing what was started. Most clear-eyed observers assumed Iran would eventually break any agreement. Now the path forward appears to be restoring deterrence through strength. For additional context, in the middle of this conflict, President Trump is turning to Elon Musk. The regime has imposed an internet blackout on the Iranian people. Trump has said he will speak with Musk about deploying Starlink terminals to help protesters and ordinary citizens bypass the censorship and get real information flowing again. Iran's regime has reportedly added Musk's companies and Starlink infrastructure to their target lists, claiming the U.S. and Israel are using it. This is exactly why resilient satellite communications matter in the hands of free people. When tyrants try to silence their own population, technology that can't be easily jammed becomes a powerful tool for truth. Interesting to see the names of Donald Trump and Elon Musk protecting truth and freedom. This is strength meeting innovation, and it's happening in real time. On the political side, former Obama chief of staff, Chicago mayor, and U.S. ambassador to Japan, Rahm Emanuel, delivered a blunt speech yesterday at Tel Aviv University. Emanuel, a longtime defender of Israel with deep personal ties, his family fought in the 1948 War of Independence. His father was born in Jerusalem, came with what he called hard truths. He warned that Prime Minister Netanyahu's policies have brought Israel to a tipping point, turning the country into a territorial pariah that has lost Europe and faces plummeting support in the United States. He said, "Unconditional U.S. support has been a mistake, not a favor, because it allowed Israel's leadership to ignore American concerns about settlements, aid restrictions, and lack of a post-war plan." Key lines from his speech: he said, "Israel will become a prisoner of its own tools. Your military is a hammer. Every security challenge is a nail." He rejected both from the river to the sea calls for Israel's destruction and visions of a greater Israel as fantasies chanted by fanatics. He condemned those who celebrated the October 7th attack as showing moral bankruptcy. He called for ending unconstitutional U.S. defense subsidies. Israel, he argued, is rich enough to buy arms like other allies under standard terms. He proposed sanctions on Israelis who attack Palestinian civilians or property, and on politicians and banks supporting illegal settlements. Instead of the discredited two-state path, he pushed a 23-state solution. Ooh. Israel, a Palestinian entity, and 21 Arab states taking responsibility for creating a governing authority that recognizes Jewish historical ties to the land, ends incitement, and stops payments to terrorists. Emmanuel said the U.S.-Israeli alliance is at a crossroads. It cannot stand or survive as it has been. He offered that America would stand, shoulder to shoulder with Israel, on a new, sustainable path of military strength, plus diplomacy. So what this really means is Raheem Emanuel is a classic old-school centrist Democrat from the Clinton-Obama era. Pragmatic, pro-business, tough on crime in his Chicago days, not a progressive or a socialist. He's positioning himself as someone who can still lead Democrats while supporting Israel, but only on his terms. Unconditional aid, sanctions on Israeli extremists, and heavy pressure for regional deals involving Arab states. He's signaling to the Democratic base that you can be pro-Israel without being unconditional. At the same time, he's telling Israel the old blank check era is ending if Democrats regain power. We've said it before and we'll say it again. We do not want Democrats back in control of this country. Their track record on borders, crime, spending, and foreign policy has been disastrous. But this speech is worth watching because it shows how even pro-Israel Democrats are shifting the goalposts and preparing to pressure Israel hard if they win in 2028. Now let's go to New York City, where another Democratic socialist lives, Mayor Zohran Mamdani. He's showing exactly why socialism always ends the same way. An advisory commission he appointed just recommended an 18.2% pay raise for elected officials, the first since 2016. City council members would jump from $148,500 to $175,500. The mayor's salary would rise to about $305,800. The council speaker and other top positions get similar bumps. The plan includes automatic annual increases of at least 2% with no public debate or votes required. This comes right after the city approved a record $126 billion budget. Wow. Mayor Mamdani and Council Speaker Julie Menon have said they personally won't take the raise for now. Critics are calling it hypocritical and tone deaf, especially while New Yorkers face high taxes, rent pressures, policies squeezing landlords, and real affordability struggles. This is the same administration bragging about record low shootings, actually driven by the police commissioner's tough on crime policies that started before Mamdani took office, and a strong economy while pushing socialist principles. The reality check, many of Mamdani's big promises, free buses, city-run grocery stores, $30 minimum wage, have either failed to materialize, been scaled back dramatically, or still have not been delivered. The rent freeze is likely headed for court challenges. Potholes are being filled, but previous mayors filled more. The big socialist success story is mostly just spending other people's money at record levels and taking credit for things capitalism is still powering underneath. As one observer put it, even communists took a couple years to destroy the Russian economy. New York is still standing because socialism hasn't fully taken over yet. This is what happens when you put people in charge who fundamentally don't believe in the system that creates wealth. They just know how to redistribute it, starting with themselves. A few other stories worth watching closely. The Charlie Kirk assassination case. The preliminary hearing for Tyler Robinson, the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk on the Utah Valley University campus last September, is underway in Provo. Prosecutors have presented surveillance videos placing Robinson on campus four times the day of the shooting. DNA evidence linking him to the rifle and related items, and the fact that he turned himself in. Donald Trump Jr., who attended part of the hearing, said afterward, "This thing is much more cut and dry than I would have ever imagined." Strong evidence continues to dismantle online conspiracy theories. Assistant Attorney General Hermeet Dillon's Civil Rights Division has sent letters to all 50 states and D.C. warning that election officials who allow non-citizens onto voter rolls or help them vote could face criminal prosecution. Even diluting the votes of citizens violates federal law. The message is clear. The days of looking the other way on voter integrity are over. Speaking about McConnell's health, even Democratic Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear is demanding answers. Senator Mitch McConnell has been hospitalized since June 14, nearly a month, with very little public information beyond brief statements that he's recovering. Beshear sent a formal letter saying Kentuckians are increasingly concerned about his health and ability to hold office. Some Republicans say they've spoken with him recently and he sounds strong, but the lack of transparency from his own office is fueling speculation. The people of Kentucky deserve clarity. Former Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan was convicted of a felony obstruction for helping an illegal alien slip past ICE agents inside her own courthouse. She faced up to 5 years in prison. Federal guidelines called for 15 to 21 months. Instead, the sentencing judge, a Clinton appointee, gave her a $5,000 fine and no jail time. Surprise, surprise, looking out for their own. Citing her lifetime of service to others, different rules for the connected, apparently. The Trump administration is tightening English language requirements and enforcement for commercial truck drivers. America's highways remain one of the deadliest public safety challenges, with thousands killed in crashes every year. Stronger standards for those operating big rigs is a common sense step forward towards saving lives. And in closing, these stories show us a clear contrast. On one side, strength, accountability, innovation, and a willingness to confront problems head on, whether it's Iranian aggression, voter integrity, or highway safety. On the other, you have political elites protecting their own salaries and power, leniency for those who undermine the law, and socialist experiments that always seem to benefit the ruler more than the ruled. We are watching prophecy unfold in real time. Nations raging, deception increasing, and the need for a clear-eyed discernment more urgent than ever. Stay watchful, stay in the Word, and keep looking up. And now let's move to our segment, Bruising the Head of the Serpent, and we're going to continue learning about the God giving Jericho into the hands of Israel.
I come in my own name, a shadow falls, a world aflame. I rise, I rule, I stake my claim. A serpent's coil, a deadly game. I build my throne, I seek my fame. I wear the crown, you bend the knee. I come in my own name. The temple's mine, the God is me. In my own name, I
really need to fix that song. I keep forgetting that I left that piano in there. That ding, 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 ding. I used to like it. I thought that like hurting the ears of a listener would bring, I don't know what I was thinking. It hurts my ears. That's why I want to take it out of there. I need to learn about the system. But apparently there is a system for versioning music releases. I don't know if you guys knew this. I think I've mentioned this previously. But apparently you can do like a cover song, a live release. You can do different types of versions. So I need to figure out what I can take advantage of to re-release that song without that piano in there that goes ding, 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 because it actually hurts my ears. But it's such a cool song because it emphasizes, the God of this world, Satan, the serpent, the one who comes in his own name. And we're about to be done with that bastard. We are in the middle of the transition out from underneath his authority to our Lord and his Christ. And yesterday we were reading in Joshua. I'd wanted to read 2 through 6, but we only made it through 2. And 2 is, it records Israel's transition from the wilderness, wandering into the promised land, wandering in the wilderness into the promised land. After Moses' death, Joshua leads the people, and we read that, we learned about God's faithfulness to his promises, the role of bold, believing outsiders, Rahab, if you remember Rahab, memorials to remember God's acts, and judgment on the wicked city, Jericho, after the righteous remnant is protected. Oh, these are actually bigger pictures. These are the overall themes that we're looking at. We read about the scarlet cord, which we talked about being a powerful picture of the redemption by blood, calling back to Exodus 12, I think it is, where they paint the blood on the doorposts when they were leaving Israel during the plagues, the plague of the death of the firstborn. So let's see, breaking it down. So chapter 2, so the big picture of 2 through 6, 2 is reconnaissance and protection. That's what we read yesterday. Today we're going to read about the miraculous crossing, chapters 3 and 4. We're probably also going to get into 5 and 6, which is preparation and circumcision. And then finally, chapter 6, the conquest of Jericho. Let's see. Key lessons that we learned yesterday. God uses unlikely people. A Gentile harlot who responded in faith. She recognized the true God. We talked about the scarlet cord and the confession of faith and action. She hid the spies when she could have turned them over. And her family got saved. So it's a good kickoff point here. Now let's continue today in chapters 3 and 4. I don't know what's going on with my beanie today. It keeps wanting to roll up. Stay. There is 3. There you go. Israel crosses the Jordan. Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and they set out from Acacia. Did we read this yesterday? Now Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out 2 men from Acacia Grove. Okay, there's a callback there. Joshua rose early in the morning, and they set out from Acacia Grove and came to the Jordan, he and all the children of Israel, and lodged there before they crossed over. So it was after 3 days that the officers went through the camp, and they commanded the people, saying, "When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, and the priests, the Levites, bearing it, then you shall set out from your place and go after it. Yet there shall be a space between you and it, about 2,000 cubits by measure. Do not come near it, that you may know the way by which you must go, for you have not passed this way before." What's interesting about that is there's been speculation that the Ark of the Covenant is radioactive. Have you guys heard that? So it's interesting. I mean, it makes sense that you want it to be far enough in front of you so everyone can see it. But come on, I mean, this is like people on foot. About 2,000 cubits by measure. See, you Let's see. Yet shall there be a space between you and it, about 2,000 cubits by measure. Do not come near it, that you may know the way by which you must go, for you have not passed this way before. And Joshua said to the people, sanctify yourselves, which means set apart. Set yourselves apart. I think it also can mean clean. Clean yourselves. For tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. Then Joshua spoke to the priests, saying, take up the Ark of the Covenant and cross over before the people. So they took up the Ark of the Covenant the Ark of the Corvette. So they took up the Ark of the Covenant and went before the people. And the Lord said to Joshua, this day I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. You shall command the priests who bear the Ark of the Covenant, saying, when you have come to the edge of the water of the Jordan, you shall stand in the Jordan. So Joshua said to the children of Israel, I wonder, how would that work? Just random sci-fi thought. So there's speculation that the Ark of the Covenant is radioactive, right? I wonder if it's not some kind of, we often don't really think of technology when we think of the Old Testament or we think of our ancestors. We think that they were, that they were much less advanced than we are. And we know that's not really true. We don't see evidence of, high technology of like microchips, like things done at microscopic levels, but we see it in other ways. We see like the pyramids being built. There's been temples that have been carved out of granite mountains, and they have no idea how they could see the drill marks. They have no idea how they could have drilled out the rock, because even our drill bits today couldn't go in as far as we can see that they drilled in. Like we could still see the drill marks. I wonder I wonder if the Ark of the Covenant isn't some kind of technology that doesn't focus or amplify God's voice somehow. You know what I mean? I was just thinking, like we all think God is everywhere present, right? I don't know about you. I don't, when I talk to God, it's always in prayer and usually silently or, out loud or silently in my head. And when he responds, I never know if it's my voice or his. Usually it's after the fact, like when I get an answer or a response or something like that, and then I do it, if it pans out, it tends to be like, oh, that must have been God leading me, inspiring me. Also with like word of knowledge, word of wisdom. I wonder if and I think about this too, to where, God dwells in the temple, right? That was the purpose of the temple. It was a place where you could go to meet God. And then without the temple and without the ark, we've become the temple. I wonder if, and the reason I say this is all sci-fi stuff going on in my head is there's been a lot of discovery of the quantum realm, quantum biology. I wonder if there's not something technological about us that was lost during their day and age that the Ark of the Covenant filled in the gap for. And then since the Ark of the Covenant went into hiding, then you had Yeshua come, and he died so that we could be redeemed. And then after his death, his Father sent the Comforter. I wonder if the Comforter didn't take the place of the Ark of the Covenant somehow technologically. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like for us to become the temple, it's almost like we're now the beacons. You know what I mean? Like the Ark of the Covenant was like an amplifier for I know I'm doing a terrible job. Some of you guys I think are probably getting it. I'm kind of doing a terrible job of explaining what's in my head. But it's almost like I wonder with those who follow Yeshua, if here's an interesting way of thinking about it. If you think of us like a piece of hardware and we're missing particular software or we're missing components to receive radio signals, what Jesus made available was an upgrade or new hardware, new capability that was it's so easy to install that it's just a matter of belief, because the quantum mechanics, it's spooky. And I'm wondering if there's just something that we're just like baby children in our understanding, that we just don't understand about the quantum realm, quantum reality, to where by following him, you get like a software upgrade to where now God can dwell in you, because we're the temple. So in a way, we've kind of become and collectively become the Ark of the Covenant. Does that make sense? Or am I just talking out of my butt here? Anyway, that's the thought that I had at the moment when I was giggling at myself here. The Ark of the Covenant. I wonder if it's not some kind of a focusing force. Anyway, so Joshua said to the children of Israel, "Come here and hear the words of the Lord your God." And Joshua said, "By this you shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will without fail drive out from before you the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Hivites and the Perizzites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Jebusites. Behold, the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of all the earth is crossing over before you into the Jordan. Now therefore, take for yourselves 12 men from the tribe of Israel." Whenever I see that number 12, I always think of governmental organization perfected. It's perfect. It's perfect governmental organization. We have 12 hours. The day is divided into 24 hours, which is 12 times 2. 12 hours governed by the greater light, 12 hours governed by the lesser light. And also a divisible number for the 144,000. You have 12,000 men from each tribe. 12,000 times 12 is 144,000. Take for yourselves 12 men from the tribes of Israel, 1 man from every tribe, and it shall come to pass, as soon as the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of the Lord of all the earth, shall rest in the water of the Jordan, that the waters of the Jordan shall be cut off. See, I mean, how is that possible? That is really cool. So basically you've got the priests walking out, and then they've got 12 men, 1 from each tribe from the house of Israel, crossing the Jordan, but they're not only crossing the Jordan, they're not wading through it. It's a Red Sea moment. It's crossing through on dry land like they did when they were leaving Egypt. Interesting. The waters that come down from upstream, and they shall stand as a heap. See, I'm telling you, it's a piece of technology. It has force fields. Maybe not. You know me, I got to figure out how things work in my head. I don't buy the whole magic, it's magic. It's either like invisible angels or some kind of technology. And it's not like we haven't seen this kind of thing. I mean, like we've been able to divide water with strong winds. It stands to reason that you could do it with some other kind of technology. Water does respond to magnets. It could be a strong magnet. Might be why they needed to stand 2,000 cubits behind. I don't know. I'm gonna be the one who's gonna be sitting in class when the Lord returns, learning how all of this stuff works. It could be could be at a quantum level. It could be stuff that we can't even fathom right now, which that's exciting too. So it was when the people set out from their camp to cross over the Jordan, with the priests bearing the Ark of the Covenant before the people, and those who bore the Ark came to the Jordan, and the feet of the priests who bore the Ark dipped the edge of the water, for the Jordan overflows all its blanks during the whole time of harvest. That's an interesting tidbit. That the waters which came down from upstream stood still and rose in a heap very far away at Adam, the city that is beside Zaratan. So the waters that went down into the sea of Araba, the sea of Araba, the salt sea, failed and were cut off, and the people crossed over opposite of Jericho. Okay, so it wasn't a splitting of the water, it was a holding of the water upstream, which cut the water off from going downstream. Okay, cool. Then the priests who bore the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan, and all Israel crossed over on dry ground until the people had crossed completely over the Jordan. All right, so what did we just read? So the people were camping by the Jordan, children of Israel. The Jordan was overflowing at harvest time, so it was full, wasn't dry, wasn't low. And the officers gave instructions to follow the Ark of the Covenant, which is the symbol of God's presence, at a very specific distance, which is interesting. Kind of makes you wonder why. You know, the other reason why I think that it's radioactive is there's reports of, and I think it's in Ethiopia, that they know where the Ark of the Covenant is, and that there are monks who are raised up and protect it all of their lives, and that there's a problem with the monks that they all die of radiation poisoning. It's another reason why I think that it's probably a piece of technology, one that we don't really understand. Let's see. We also read about the priests bearing the ark. They stepped into the flooded Jordan, and the waters stood up in a heap far upstream, allowing the people to cross over on dry ground right against Israel, right against Jericho. Let's see. The priests stand firm in the middle until everyone passes over. And that leads us to 4. What have you guys been saying in the chat? Evil is winning in this world? Yeah. I think, I wouldn't say it's winning. I would say that it's being exposed. It's being exposed in the same way that because I like to liken it to the curse from Zechariah 5, that the curse is going through the land. Because when it's exposed, when you shine light on it, then you can deal with it. Rahab was in the genealogical ancestry line of Jesus, Fury says. That's right. You guys have some of the most interesting conversations in chat. All right, let's continue with 4. The memorial stones. 4, and it came to pass when all the people had completely crossed over the Jordan, that the people spoke to Joshua, saying, Take for yourselves 12 men from the people, 1 man for every tribe, and command them, saying, Take for yourselves 12 stones from here, out of the midst of the Jordan. Midst is middle, out of the middle of the Jordan. So these would be stones not normally accessible, because the water would be covering them, unless the water dries up when it's not harvest. But most flowing rivers always have some kind of flow, So I would imagine that they're special because they would be hard to, the only time you would be able to get to them is if somebody came along with an Ark of the Covenant and stopped the water. From the place where the priest's feet stood firm, you shall carry them over with you and leave them in the lodging place where you lodge tonight. Then Joshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the children of Israel, one man from every tribe, and Joshua said to them, this is tripping me out because Joshua is basically what Yeshua means. Yeshua is basically Joshua. So this is very reminiscent of him choosing out 12 disciples. He was following this same pattern. So these patterns just permeate our history and our future, apparently. Then Joshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the children of Israel, one man for every tribe. And Joshua said to them, cross over before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of the Jordan. And each one of you take up a stone on his shoulder. Must have been heavy. According to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel. That this may be a sign among you when your children ask in a time to come, saying, what do these stones mean to you? Then you shall answer them. I'm not going to say what I was thinking. What do these stones mean to you? Then you shall answer them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be for a memorial to the children of Israel forever. I wonder if they're still there. I wonder if you go there and they say, these are the 12 stones. Does anybody know? That'd be worth looking up. And the children of Israel did so, just as Joshua commanded, and took up the 12 stones from the midst of the Jordan, as the Lord had spoken to Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, and carried them over with them to the Lord, to the place where they lodged, and laid them down there. Then Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the ark of the covenant stood. And they are there to this day. Are they? That would be cool to find. I imagine there's tens of thousands of people who claim they found them, but it would be cool to find out if they're legitimately there. It says so in the scripture. I assume it's true. They must be there. Whether we know where they are or not. So the priests who bore the ark stood in the midst of the Jordan until everything was finished that the Lord had commanded Joshua to speak to the people, according to all that Moses had commanded to Joshua. And the people hurried and crossed over. I would imagine you would hurry. Then it came to pass, when all the people had completely crossed over, that the ark of the Lord and the priests crossed over in the presence of the people. And the men of Reuben, the men of Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh crossed over, armed before the children of Israel, as Moses had spoken to them. About 40,000 prepared for war crossed over before the Lord for battle to the plains of Jericho. On that day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared him as they feared Moses all the days of his life. Then the Lord spoke to Joshua, saying, "Command the soles of the priests' feet touched the dry land." And the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and overflowed all of its banks as before. That would be so cool to watch. Now the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal. Then he spoke to the children of Israel, saying, "When your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, 'What are these stones?' then you shall let your children know, saying, 'Israel crossed over this Jordan on dry land.' For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had crossed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which had dried up before us until we had crossed over, that all the peoples of the earth may know," that's an interesting line, "that all the peoples of the earth may know the hand of the Lord, that it is mighty, that you may fear the Lord your God forever." Yeah, I mean, well, this is very reminiscent of the events of the end time. You know, we're in a period of time to where we're enslaved to the world the way it is. We're in bondage, whether you think so or not, regardless of what country you're in. We're not truly free. In America, we have more freedoms than most people around the world enjoy, but still not completely free. And now we're going through a transition to where the kingdoms of this world are becoming the kingdoms of our Lord and his Christ. So this is interesting, that all the people of the earth may know the hand of the Lord that is mighty, that you may fear the Lord your God forever. Yeah. Okay. So what did we just read? Chapter 4. 12 men, one from each tribe, taking stones from the riverbed, specifically where the priest stood, and set them up in Gilgal as a memorial. Joshua also sets up 12 stones in the Jordan. I wonder if those are still there. I imagine they are. What's the purpose? When children ask, "What mean these stones?" tell them how God cut off the Jordan waters, just as he did at the Red Sea, that all the people of the earth might know the hand of the Lord, that it is mighty. Reuben, Gad, and half Manasseh, interesting call out there, crossed armed to help conquer, even though their inheritance was east of Jordan. So key lessons in chapter 4, God's presence. The ark represents God's presence, leads the way and holds back impossible obstacles. Memorials are vital. I believe so. We must remember to teach the next generation what God has done, and obedience and sanctification precedes miracles. We could take those same lessons to what's happening right now. All right, moving on to chapter 5. This one's a short one, shortish. There were 2 memorials, but the stones have not been found. Yeah. All right, the second generation circumcised. Is there a way I can increase the size of this text? It seems like it seems probably kind of small to you guys. No, it's formatting maybe. So I can turn stuff off. View. Zoom. Oh, there you go. All right. That's way easier to read. So it was when all the kings of the Amorites, who were on the west side of the Jordan, and all the kings of the Canaanites, who were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of the Jordan from before the children of Israel until we had crossed over, that their hearts melted. I imagine it would. And there was no spirit in them any longer because of the children of Israel. At that time, the Lord said to Joshua, "Make flint knives for yourselves and circumcise the sons of Israel again the second time." I don't even want to think about that process. What? Really? A second time? Is that possible? Yikes. So Joshua made flint knives for himself and circumcised the sons of Israel at the hill of the foreskins. Yeah, God, really? And this is the reason why Joshua circumcised them. All the people who came out of Egypt, who were males, all of the men of war, had died in the wilderness on the way. after they had come out of Egypt. For all the people who came out had been circumcised, but all the people born in the wilderness on the way as they came out of Egypt had not been circumcised. Oh, thank God. So it sounds like they're saying it was a second circumcision it was a second circumcision, but only of those who hadn't been circumcised, if I'm reading that correctly. I hope I am. For the children of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness, till all the people who were men of war, who came out of Egypt, were consumed, because they did not obey the voice of the Lord. Here's another tie-in to the curse. That consummation. The curse goes into the homes of the thieves and the perjurers. Those who... So you've got the thieves and the perjurers basically represent the full 10 commandments. And so this is those who did not obey the voice of the Lord. And there does appear to be serious consequences to those who do not obey the voice of the Lord. Think of the evil servant who does not obey the voice of the Lord. He does not know. He's not even aware of the hour the Lord returns. And he was warned. He was told to watch, and he was warned that if he didn't watch, he would not know the hour that the thief would come and his house would be broken up. That's a summary. That's not a quote word for word, but that captures the essence of it. So this is interesting. So they had to wait till all the disobedient soldiers died because they did not obey the voice of the Lord, to whom the Lord swore that he would not show them the land which the Lord had sworn to their fathers that he would give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. Then Joshua circumcised their sons, whom he raised up in their place, for they were uncircumcised. Oh, whew, good to know. Got a little scary there for a minute, because they had not been circumcised on the way. So it was, when they had finished circumcising all of the people, that they stayed in their places in the camp till they were healed. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "This day I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you." Therefore the name of the place is called Gilgal to this day. Now the children, the rolling away the reproach, I almost wonder if that's not what the curse is. Is the curse that's going through the earth right now rolling away the reproach of Egypt for our particular generation? Now the children of Israel camped in Gilgal. It's actually better, because this would be the final redemption. This would be this kind of thing seems to have happened at least twice, maybe a third time or more. I would like to think that what we're going through now is the final time. It's the final countdown. Now the children of Israel camped in Gilgal and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at twilight on the plains of Jericho. And they ate of the produce of the land on the day after the Passover, unleavened bread and parched grain on that very same day. Then the manna ceased on the day after they had eaten the produce of the land, and the children of Israel no longer had manna, but they ate the food of the land of Canaan that year. And it came to pass, when Joshua was by Jericho, that he lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, a man stood opposite him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, "Are you for us or for our adversaries?" And he said, "No, but as a commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come." That'd be intense. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and worshipped, and said to him, "What does my Lord say to his servant?" Then the commander of the Lord's army said to Joshua, "Take your sandal off your foot," because apparently he was only wearing one, "for the place where you stand is holy." And Joshua did so. Gotta have fun when you're reading the Bible. It's the best way to keep your attention. All right, so what did we just read? Was that 5? We're getting ready to read 6. So circumcision of the new generation at Gilgal. This was not a second circumcision of those who had already been circumcised, because I don't even know how that would work. This was the circumcision of those who had not been circumcised who were raised up in place of the old guard, the old warriors, because the old warriors did not obey. The Passover was kept, which is interesting. So you've got a couple of callbacks to the Passover, which this is foreshadowing of Yeshua. There's a lot of connections here with Yeshua. Yeshua's name is tied to Joshua. He was the Passover. They did the Passover was initiated in Exodus when they were leaving Egypt. It was part of the plague of the death of the firstborn, where a lamb was sacrificed and its blood was placed on the side posts and the lintel, which caused the destroyer to pass over that house and all who were in it. So you've got them before they even go into the land. There's a reference to the Passover with the scarlet thread and Rahab. And then you've got them keeping Passover once they've crossed into the land. And at this point, the manna ceases, which is interesting. So you've got, if we read all of this, you would see that they'd been eating manna for 40 years. They ate the produce of the land. Boy, I bet you that tasted good. I often wonder, people who only feed their animals like the same dog food their entire life. I can imagine that's kind of what it's like. Manna might be absolutely awesome, but if you have to eat it every day for 40 years, you're probably going to get tired of it. Although, as we haven't read it tonight, but when you read about the manna, they did get a little unthankful about it. We also read Joshua meets the commander of the Lord's army with a drawn sword, and Joshua receives his marching orders. All right, let's move into chapter 6. We've got time. How long is chapter 6? It's a bigger one. Do we have time? 27 verses. Yeah, we got time. The destruction of Jericho. Now Jericho was securely shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have given Jericho into your hand, its kings and the mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, all you men of war." And it should be noted, these are recently circumcised men of war, probably a little sore. I mean, it didn't say they rested until they healed up. You shall go all around the city once. This you shall do 6 days. The tie-in here, and this is the reason we're reading this, is because of the 7 seals. So you've got the opening of the 7 seals, and on the 6th one, seal 6 is when pretty much it seems like Yeshua returns. Where's my Matthew 24? There it is. So this seems to be seal 5. This seems to be seal 6. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven. Then all the tribes of earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the 4 winds, from one end of heaven to the other. And then we've got Revelation. So let's see. You've got seal 6. These are the trumpets. There's the 7th seal. So you've got fourth seal, 5th seal, 6th seal. This is the return of Christ. This makes more sense now. The sealed of Israel. Man, I'm wondering if these aren't the first who are gathered together when the seal opens. I have to believe though that the resurrection goes hand in hand with the magnetic pole shift, because we've kind of, and I wouldn't say we've confirmed it, but there's strong supporting evidence that the magnetic pole shift is the earth giving birth, releasing the dead that are contained within it. So then you have the multitude from the Great Tribulation. Yeah, see? So you've got the elite, which I think the 144,000 are the elite, but you also have the multitude from the Great Tribulation. Then you have the opening of the seventh seal. So in here, in Joshua 6, they're commanded, the Lord said, see, I've given into you shall march around the city, all of you men, you shall go around the city once, this you shall do for 6 days. There's got to be a connection with that and the 7 seals. Because, and the 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets. Right? Of ram's horns before the ark. But the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times. That has to be connected. It must be. Seventh seal. When he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. So there's a period of time between seal 6 and seal 7. I think if I remember from Claire's interview that she calculated that if this is in any way associated with our timekeeping, that this could be, what was it, Claire? 7 days? If you go based on a day is as 1,000 years to God, so what would 1,000 years divided by 24 be? And then you take, or is it, no, by 365, and then you take 360. Yeah, anyway, so there's a way to do the math. I think she came up with 7 days. So when he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. You know, the funny joke is that's how you know. I know it's offensive. I'm sorry. I'm a married man. This makes me laugh. This is how you know the men arrived in heaven first, because there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. Sorry. I couldn't resist. And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth, and there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. So the 7 angels who had 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. I don't know what the period of time is between seal 6 and seal 7, but if this count is correct, if it does follow the chiastic structure, between seal 5 and seal 6 is 176 days, and between seal 6 and seal 7 is 1 year. So basically you would have the gathering together of the elect, and then there would be 1 year before seal 7 opened. Yeah. But here's what's interesting. 7 angels, 7 trumpets. They blow the trumpets. Then you got the 2 witnesses. Their time ends about that time also. 2 witnesses are killed. And then resurrected. And then it is finished. 7th angel sounded. And there were loud voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Lord and his Christ. That's the end game right there. That right there is the goal, and it seems to parallel what we're reading in Joshua. You shall march around the city, all you men of war, you shall go all around the city once. This you shall do for 6 days, and 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets. In Revelation, you got 7 angels bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. But the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times. Seal number 7, they got 7 trumpets. There's a parallel there. All right, let's continue to read. And the priest shall blow the trumpets. It shall come to pass when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, that all the people shall shout with a great shout. Then the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up every man straight before him. Then Joshua the son of Nun called the priest and said to them, Take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord. And he said to the people, Proceed and march around the city, and let him who is armed advance before the ark of the Lord. So it was, when Joshua had spoken to the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Lord advanced and blew the trumpets. And the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them. The armed men went before the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard came after the ark, while the priests continued blowing the trumpets. Now Joshua had commanded the people, saying, You shall not shout or make any noise with your voice, nor shall a word proceed out of your mouth until the day I say to you, Shout. Then you shall shout. So he had the ark of the Lord circle the city, going around it once. We already know this thing's powerful. It's able to hold back the water. Imagine what it was doing to those walls. I wonder if they had to stay away from the ark this time. Did they still have to keep that 2,000 cubit distance? Then they came into the camp and lodged in the camp, and Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. Then 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord went on continually and blew with the trumpets. And the armed men went before them, but the rear guard came after the ark of the Lord, while the priests continued blowing the trumpets. And the second day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. So they did for 6 days. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early, about the dawning of the day, and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner. On that day only they marched around the city 7 times, and the 7th time it happened, when the priests blew the trumpets, that Joshua said to the people, Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. Now the city shall be doomed by the Lord to destruction. It and all who are in it. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all who are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And you, by all means, abstain from the accursed things, lest you become accursed when you take of the accursed things, and make the camp of Israel a curse, and trouble it. But all the silver and gold and vessels of bronze and iron are consecrated to the Lord. They shall come into the treasury of the Lord. So the people shouted when the priests blew the trumpets, and it happened when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat. Then the people went up into the city, every man straight before him. And they took the city, and they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, ox and sheep and donkey, with the edge of the sword. You know what this is? This is no man knows the day or hour. So can you picture yourself in the city when this is happening? You see an army marching around your wall. You have no knowledge that how long they're going to do this. Maybe you're girded up and ready for a fight on the first day. But they come, they march around the city, then they go back to their camp. Okay, no war that day. Second day, you're still girded, the soldiers inside the castle, inside the walls of Jericho, probably still ready for war. Children of Israel march around the wall, silent, not doing anything. Then they go back. Take a day. They do that again for 6 days. By the 6th day, you know human nature is kicked in, and the people in Jericho, the soldiers who were ready for probably 5 days. Let's just pick seal number 5. Because this is the servant who watches. So you probably had men on the wall who got tired, worn out, and probably started saying in their heart, this war is delayed. They're not going to do anything. These walls are strong. They ain't never going to breach them. And they probably let their guard down. And then on the 7th day, the walls fell down. And those who were inside the walls were probably caught off guard. It's an appropriate analogy for if the good man of the house had known in what hour the thief would come, he would have watched. So I imagine, and this is just an assumption based on the available information that we have, but I think it's probably a good analogy, a possibility, just knowing human nature. That could have happened. This could be an example of the thief coming in at an hour they don't know. It's probably why it was so easy to take it. Good strategy. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman. Is that where I left off? So the people shouted when the priest blew the trumpets, and it happened when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat. Then the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, ox and sheep and donkey, with the edge of the sword. Yeah, Fury is pointing out this is when God used the power of vibration of sound to bring the walls down. Seems sound was really important to God. There was a reason God told them to kill everyone. It wasn't just insane killing. The Canaanites and certain cities and tribes were descendants of Nephilim. Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Excellent point. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, ox and sheep and donkeys. We know Nephilim actually did breeding experiments. Probably why they told them to kill the animals too. They probably messed around with their genetics. With the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said to the 2 men who had spied out the country, go into the harlot's house, and from there bring out the woman and all that she has, as you swore to her. And the young men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab, her father, her mother, her brothers, and all that she had. So they brought out all of her relatives and left them outside the camp of Israel. But they burned the city and all that was in it with fire. Interesting correlation with what's going to happen to the earth in the days of Noah. It ain't going to flood the second time. It's going to be burned with fire. Probably for similar reasons. I mean, when you see them genetically modifying mosquitoes and ticks, it's about the only way to get rid of that crap. Only the silver and gold and the vessels of bronze and iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. And Joshua spared Rahab the harlot, her father's household, and all that she had. So she dwells in Israel to this day. Interesting. Because she hid the messengers whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. Then Joshua charged them at that time, saying, cursed be the man before the Lord who rises up and builds this city Jericho. He shall lay its foundations with his firstborn. Interesting. And with his youngest he shall set up its gates. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout all the country. Well, that was pretty cool. Stupid beanie. This is my hot day beanie to where it's a lot thinner, so I don't sweat to death. And it doesn't want to stay down. Keeps wanting to creep up. Alrighty. What did we just read? Chapter 6, the fall of Jericho. God's unusual battle plan, march around the city once a day for 6 days with 7 priests blowing 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. On the seventh day, march around 7 times, then long blast plus great shout equals wall falls flat. The city is utterly destroyed. The accursed, devoted to the Lord. Everything is burnt except for the silver, gold, bronze. I think copper was in there. And vessels for the Lord's treasury. Rahab and her family are brought out safely by the 2 spies and placed outside the camp. She dwells in Israel because she hid the messengers. Joshua warns about rebuilding Jericho. Key lessons. Victory comes by God's power and obedience, even if they are strange instructions, not by human strength. That's a good point. That's important today, too. Judgment on wickedness, but mercy for the believing remnant marked by the blood token. The 2 spies return to complete the rescue of Rahab's household before total destruction. What else did we learn? Let's see. Deliverance precedes judgment. Interesting. Memorial stones and crossing as pictures of passing from death to life and to new beginnings. 7 trumpets and shouts bringing down strongholds. What else? I kind of want to dig into this parenthetical statement. What are we doing on time? 1:17. Maybe we do this tomorrow. I kind of want to go through Revelation now at this point. The trumpets. I mean, it seems like we're getting about this time, so we should be learning everything we can about Seal 5, Seal 6, Seal 7, and the trumpets. See if we can't gain more information. Now we can really start looking at Claire's stuff seriously too, because she has put in a lot of work. Come on, load. She's got some interesting starting points here with the 7 trumpets. Potential first trumpet to February 2nd, 2028. So maybe we can start considering her work there. We'll see. Have any questions before we move into the torment report? After the pause of silence in heaven, the angel throws down the fire to earth. Does it? Seventh seal. When he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. And I saw the 7 angels who stood before God, and to them was given 7 trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. Interesting. Yeah, we got a lot to explore in here. I think we can spend some time on this. Seems appropriate. Not today. In the days ahead. That is when God used the power of vibration. Yeah. All right, let's move on to our daily torment report, where we cover the posts and prophecies of the 2 men who are tormenting the world the most because they are protecting our freedoms and speaking the truth every day, tormenting those who hate God. I don't know. That's not about right.
Through trials faced, through testing days, you've kept my word, walked in my ways. Though strength was small, you held your ground. The door I've opened cannot be bound. They turned away, they closed their eyes, but I have written what none denies. Through fleeting fear and fleeting shame, you stood for truth, upheld my name. Hold fast, your crown is sure. The door I've opened will stand secure. A pillar raised in the temple of my God, forever sealed, forever strong.
All right, picking it up with Donald Trump. A very big day in Palm Beach, Florida, where it was my great honor to have the Palm Beach International Airport be renamed. By a spectacular vote, the President Donald J. Trump International Airport. The area is hot, the location is great, and the renovation will be spectacular. I cannot do a Trump impersonation. I've tried. Thank you to all in Palm Beach for your vote and confidence. This will soon be one of the greatest and most spectacular airports anywhere in the world. President Donald J. Trump. Let's see. Thank you to the brilliant and highly respected Gwen Shotwell and her husband Robert for their extreme generosity in helping children to attain the ever magnificent American dream. Their gift of $325 million of SpaceX stock is greatly appreciated by all. Thousands of children have just been given a better life. So do children who open Trump accounts actually get the stock? That'd be interesting. And continued great success. Oh boy, he didn't post very much today. Local officials have now confirmed the U.S. strike. Well, I guess he is blowing up Iran and traveling. Local officials have now confirmed the U.S. strikes indeed targeted Iran Shah airport base in the southern Iranian city of Iran Shah, which is partially utilized by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace. That's a mouthful. Oh, I think we read that yesterday. Yeah, and then we watched these videos. Woo, 2 posts. That's cutting it. That's barely meeting the requirements. Actually, if he's in the public at all, I think it counts because it just says they prophesy for 1,260 days. So any medium, as long as he's not sleeping for an entire day or doesn't take a day off where he doesn't say anything at all, I think it still counts. Which is funny because you could make the argument that could apply to anybody, but surprisingly, it doesn't. I find days where Netanyahu doesn't say anything for 2 or 3 days. He disappears. All right, let's move on. Elon. Surely Elon posted more. 56 minutes ago, Starmind. Capturing solar energy in space to power low-cost, high-performance AI compute for Earth. Oh, is that what they're calling it? They're calling it Starmind. Interesting. So they've launched a new website. Now here I can give you a better view. Overview, thermal, solar. Orbital satellite with localized compute that takes advantage of readily available power and cooling in space and beams back data, very high bandwidth lasers to the Starlink constellation. All of these satellites, I keep thinking every time he puts more crap up in our atmosphere, it's got to be related to the stars falling from heaven like a fig tree when it's shaken, right? I mean, it only makes sense. All this stuff, all the plans, everything that people are doing. I mean, and I don't know if everything is going to fall. It might. It could be a complete and total reset. Everything could come out of the atmosphere. Every single satellite could come out of it. Maybe this has happened more than once. Maybe this does happen every 7,000 years. Maybe this is God's plan for how he populates populates heaven. You know what I mean? You ever think of that? It's kind of a weird thought, but the story of redemption, the earth could go through a whole cycle. It could be a 6,000-year cycle to where, and that could be why we don't find technology. The only thing that survives are rock, things that are made out of rock. So all of this stuff that he's putting up into our atmosphere, when the magnetic pole shifts and God's wrath is unleashed on the earth, it could be cleansing everything. We may be going into the next 1,000 years with zero technology. You're going to be thankful for new bodies and getting into heaven. Whatever happens, I don't know. Maybe this is just educating us on what happens if this is allowed to. That could be, there's a case to be made for, right before the redemption, us seeing the tree of knowledge of good and evil growing wildly out of control. And this could be what it was that ultimately planted the seed of evil in the heart of Adam in the very beginning when he was first put into the garden. Could have been technology growing wildly out of control, and just look at all the trouble it causes. This might be why we don't find technology, even though we're pretty darn sure they had advanced technology. We can see it in the things that they did that we have no idea how they accomplished. Interesting thought. Alrighty, Starmind. Very cool name. I'm surprised he didn't name it something after Hitchhiker's Guide. Didn't they already the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? I'm surprised he didn't call it the Guide or Starmind. I don't know. Let's see. The Cape Gigabay is getting closer to being ready for Starship. Teams recently installed the 420-ton crane, which we'll use to break over and move starships and super heavy boosters preparing for flight, one step closer to the moon and Mars. Defense is 8% of the U.S. government spending. Education, 15%. Welfare is 47%. Good gravy. That's so stupid because welfare seems like that would be the easiest problem to solve. A good manager can find crap for people to do. And there's so much in this world that's been left undone due to poor leadership. So instead, we're lazy and we just pay them so we don't have to direct them and lead them. Terrible. Super Heavy booster moved to the Starbase pad for testing ahead of Flight 13. Consistent with the simulation hypothesis, like a video game, objects are randomly generated and positional certainty only when observed. Oh, that's quantum stuff.
If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now, there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this. two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron
Speaking of quantum,
is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. We get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched.
I think we're beginning to understand why prayer works. When you belief, when Jesus says, "Never have I seen such great belief," like the woman who touched the hem of his garment. Why was it that she went, through what she went through for 12 years, and only when she finally touched the hem of his garment was she actually healed? It seems to be like a quantum thing, like the observation or measuring of a thing. I don't know how it works, but like prayers, got to be quantum. That's the answer to everything. That's better than what's the typical Christian response? It's a mystery. It's better than it's a mystery.
If we randomly...
It's quantum. The level of detail rendered is proportionate to the precision of the observation. Anything more than that is wasted compute. Okay. Elon, it's time to break the simulation. A lot of truth to that. The center of the observable universe lies at the observer, and you are the observer. It is not the universe that moves. It is you. Free your mind. Look at life with a positive attitude. Yeah, I like that.
We shoot a small object, say...
Okay, where are we at? Welfare. So Fury pointed out that welfare isn't just poor people. It's not just funding for illegals. Most welfare is used for elderly, disabled, and single parents needing a bit of help with health care and food for their kids. Fair point. I've taken advantage of WorkSource when I lost all my jobs during COVID. Fair point. Yeah. Thank you. My bad for assuming the worst. I don't know. I just saw 47% and thought that was ridiculous. It seems like it should be much, much smaller than 47%. From Katie Miller, Mark Zuckerberg hasn't posted since 2023. X is the global town square. This is where news happens. Zuckerberg, today we're releasing Muse Spark 1.1, a strong agentic encoding model at a very low price. It's available through our new Meta Model API and in Meta AI. Okay. Oh, I love this guy. What's he got to say now?
In judicial ethics, the mere appearance of potential fraud is disqualifying. Same goes here. Whether or not there is widespread fraud occurring, there certainly could be, and it doesn't matter how many times you scream, there's no widespread fraud. A lot of people believe there is, and there's no way to actually validate it. This isn't just about whether or not fraud is swinging the election. The appearance of fraud already is swinging the election. People rightly have zero faith in this janky, inefficient system. They feel like their vote isn't being counted. They feel like illegal ballots are being cast, and they're not wrong to worry about it. There's literally no safeguards in place to prevent that from happening, and way too many openings for it to occur on a massive scale. You all saw how it was neck and neck with Karen Basura on election night, nearly double digits ahead of Nithya, just as the polling predicted.
Rahman fighting tears on election night, trailing Spencer Pratt by roughly 40,000 votes and about 10 percentage points.
I dominated the in-person vote. I smashed Nithya on the mail-in ballots too. She was crying on election night. It was over. Then a few days later, suddenly Nithya started overperforming as they continued to accept ballots 7 days after the election.
But days of county mail-in ballots have changed the map.
I'm so grateful.
Rahman has now erased a 40,000 vote deficit and moved ahead of Pratt by roughly 3,000 votes, a net swing of more than 43,000 votes.
43,000 votes, which just happens to be the exact number of homeless people on the streets in LA. They assured everyone that this is normal because for some reason that they can't explain, Democrats overwhelmingly vote by mail.
There's a historical phenomenon in national voting called the Red Mirage.
The Red Mirage.
What we were calling a Red Mirage.
The Red Mirage.
Red Mirage.
Yeah.
This term was coined because about some swing states count votes, usually favoring Republicans early. Then it becomes an advantage for Democrats later in the evening and then into the next morning.
You expect to see the Republican with a lead, but it's not really a lead.
Democrats vote in higher numbers by a mail-in ballot. Historically, Democrats vote in higher numbers by mail-in ballots.
But not all Democrats, just the ones who are voting for the third place candidate, the one candidate who really needed the votes. Don't forget, there were 2 Democrats in the race, but for some reason, only the third place Democrat who needed the votes saw a disproportionate spike in votes several days after the election.
Wow.
Plus, multiple studies have shown that mail voting doesn't provide an advantage to either party. It's a myth. The media will say that claims of fraud here are without evidence. Keep in mind, an anomalous statistical spike like this is evidence of fraud. Ask any forensic accountant. It may not be necessarily proof of fraud, but it is certainly evidence of fraud. But forget the late ballots. Just because the vote swing coincidentally matched the specific Lhasa count of homeless people on the streets, just because NGOs that Nithya cuts checks to were hoarding ballots, just because hundreds of thousands of dead people and ex-residents who've left California were still on the voter rolls, doesn't mean anyone is taking those loose ballots and filling them out. First off, it's against the law. And we all know if it's against the law, it doesn't happen.
Right.
Secondly, we have signature verification. Everyone has to sign their ballot, and a computer checks your signature. Well, except some voters can't sign, so they carved out a rule where you can just make a mark on the ballot, and a witness can sign on your behalf. It can be an X or a scribble or even a happy face, as long as a witness signs off on it. And don't forget, once they separate the ballot from the envelope, there's zero way to trace it back to the ballot to check if a sudden tranche of votes that swung predominantly to one candidate had come from a bunch of ballots with the happy faces in the signature box. The DSA instructs their ballot harvesters to go door to door and tell them to vote for Nithya Rahman and even help them fill in the bubble for their preferred socialist candidates. This is explicitly illegal. A ballot harvester can't tell you how to vote, and they certainly can't help you fill out the ballot. But laws don't matter if you have no mechanism in place to prevent the crime from occurring in the first place. There is this misnomer being parroted even by staunch critics of California's rigged voting system, saying there's nothing you can do because this is all legal in California. It's not legal. Even by California's own ridiculous laws, all this stuff is still illegal. They've simply removed all the mechanisms to catch the fraud and prevent it from happening. It's like a bank heist, but California has made a law that you can't lock the bank vault. You're not allowed to have security cameras, and you can't count the money inside the vault. Robbing the bank is still 100% illegal, but there's no way to stop it from happening. Now here's the smoky backroom dealing. 5 days before my election, Gavin Newsom signed a ridiculous law that literally banned federal and independent authorities from investigating vote fraud or overseeing elections to monitor for fraud during the counting process.
That's why I'm moving forward with new legislation that would make it a felony to seize ballots before the vote has been certified by state and county officials. We will be the wall he cannot get past.
That's like banning the bank from having security cameras. Now, the timing of this was deliberate. He knows this won't hold up in court, but he did it so close to the election day, he knew the courts wouldn't be able to overturn it in time for the election. It's truly like going up against the casino. The deck is so stacked against you, you never really stand a chance. You can play if you choose, but the house will never lose. So now, in California, you can loot $950 of merchandise. You can knowingly infect someone with HIV, but if you try to prevent vote fraud,
You will be prosecuted.
how can you secure the money if you can't lock the vault? How can you catch the robbers if you're not allowed to monitor the vault? And how can you even identify if the vault were even robbed in the first place if you can't even count the money? This is what California has done with elections. Unsolicited ballots going into open mailboxes and NGOs and parking lots. Bank vault is wide open. No signature required, no ID required, no way to ID the robbers. And the beauty of their rigged system is they can have all the pageantry of this public ballot counting center. Hey, come on down. It's open to the public. Anyone can come watch so you can see just how kosher our system is.
We are inside LA County's massive ballot processing center. When Assistant United States Attorney arrived on scene to observe the process and ask questions.
All the fraud that does occur happens long before the ballots even hit this building. People have been pushing me to demand a recount. Why? You could recount these anonymous ballots 100 times. You'll get the same exact result. I have no doubt that they are doing a flawless job of accurately counting every single ballot in here with robotic precision. The fraud isn't here. It's here on Skid Row, where homeless people are paid a couple bucks for their ballots.
They give you $2 to vote? Yeah, we can just speak. Did they come down here and try and pay you to vote?
Yes.
They told you who to vote for?
Since I'm voting your way, can I get a plate? You know what I mean?
It's here where socialist street animals go door to door and violate the ballot harvesting laws. People bring up the old communist adage often attributed to Stalin saying, it's not who votes that counts, it's who counts the votes. No, this is the modern era of fraud. They've gotten wise. The modern communist agrees with the old communist, but just the first part. It doesn't matter who votes. It doesn't matter if it's a drug zombie being paid for their ballot. It doesn't matter if it's a DSA socialist street animal filling out your ballot. It doesn't matter if it's a blue-haired intern at a Nithya Raman-funded NGO filling out the ballots. The bank vault is wide open. The cameras have been removed, and there's no way to count the money. Now, for those of you who wanted me to fight the election, for those of you who thought I was quitting or I was bought off to step aside and quietly disappear, I'll remind you, there's a smart way to handle these things and a dumb way. Evidence is not proof. I don't say things without proof. Now, anyone saying that there's no evidence of fraud is lying. There's tons of evidence, and I was the one who got it. All those videos that you saw of homeless people admitting that they were paid for their vote, where do you think they came from? Immediately after the big spike of votes came in for Nithya, I sent my team down to Skid Row to collect evidence. We were warned by some very well-connected people that this was happening, so we acted on it immediately. But if you want to end this fraud, doing protests and bitching about stolen elections won't get you anything. You need the fraudsters to start catching charges. For that to happen, you need proof. That's what investigators do. They turn evidence into proof with a robust investigation. You think it's a coincidence that 20 FBI agents suddenly descended on Skid Row to investigate vote fraud? Why do you think they were there? You don't get evidence by going to rallies or storming the ballot processing center. You get evidence by doing real work. And the first rule of criminal investigation is you do not talk about it. Here's the reality. It's too late for my campaign. A lot of people refuse to accept that, but I can. I told you all to get your ass out and vote. Tell your friends to vote. Vote enough to beat the cheat. We didn't beat it, but that doesn't mean I quit. I don't know how to quit.
He never knew when to quit.
Ouch.
My goal isn't to try and salvage the campaign,
Whoever
just
his
like my
editor is
advocacy in the
amazing.
wake of the Palisades fire wasn't about my own home. It's too late for me. This is about you. This is about the next one. It's about exposing this corrupt rigged system and changing it for the next election. If I have to be the kamikaze pilot to finally get this fixed, so be it. There's a right way and a wrong way to do this. The right way isn't easy, but it ends with commie animals in handcuffs. I will restore faith in our elections if it's the last thing I do. And to all you fraudsters out there, we've been watching you, and justice is coming.
Is he related to Chris Pratt? Do we know? I love that. This guy's videos are so entertaining. I love Chris Pratt too. Star-Lord. Well, that was interesting. All right. From Dogan Ural. Be Stardust. Float around the universe for billions of years. Somehow become human. Gain consciousness. Immediately start asking why. Never stop. Discover fire. Discover math. Discover atoms. Discover electricity. Pick up a random rock. Ask yourself, is this true? Extract it. Oh, we can't read it? Damn it. Stupid bug. I need to find a way to submit bug reports. Anyway, even Zuckerberg has to advertise his AI model on X. X is the real arena. Kardashev 2, or we're not a serious civilization. Moon and Mars are necessary steps to this. The Moon and Mars. Let's see. Elon Musk did a live phone interview. Oh.
There's a lot of room in space. And if you look at the size of Earth relative to the sun or relative to the solar system, you realize just how tiny Earth is. We're very, very tiny. We only receive about 500 millionth of the sun's energy. So you can really think of Earth as being like a tiny dust mote in a vast darkness. So the way to expand compute without using up all the land on Earth is to do so.
We're getting pretty close on time. I think we know everything he's going to say in that pretty much.
I would say definitely Elon runs his companies in an extremely unique style. I don't actually think that people appreciate how unique it is. You sort of like even read about it and so on, but you don't understand it, I think. It's like even hard to describe. I don't even know where to start. But, well, number one is like, so he likes very small, strong, highly technical teams. I would say at companies by default, the teams grow and they get large. Elon was always like a force against growth. I would have to work and expend effort to hire people. I would have to basically plead to hire people. And then the other thing is at big companies, it's really hard to get rid of low performers. And I think Elon is very friendly to, by default, getting rid of low performers. So I actually had to fight for people to keep them on the team because he would by default want to remove people. So keep a small, strong, highly technical team. No middle management that is kind of like non-technical for sure. So that's number one. Number two is kind of like the vibes of how everything runs and how it feels when he sort of like walks into the office. He wants it to be a vibrant place. People are walking around, they're pacing around, they're working on exciting stuff, they're charting something, they're coding. He doesn't like stagnation. He doesn't like for it to look that way. He doesn't like large meetings. He always encourages people to leave meetings if they're not being useful. So actually you do see this, or it's a large meeting and if you're not contributing and you're not learning, you just walk out. And this is fully encouraged. And I think this is something that you don't normally see. I think a lot of bigger companies, they pamper employees. I think there's much less of that. The culture of it is you're there to do your best technical work, and there's the intensity and so on. And I think maybe the last one that is very unique and very interesting and very strange is just how connected he is to the team. So usually a CEO of a company is like a remote person 5 layers up who talks to their VPs, who talk to their reports and directors, and eventually you talk to your manager. That's not how he runs companies, right? He will come to the office, he will talk to the engineers. Normally people spend 99% of the time maybe talking to the VPs. He spends maybe 50% of the time, and he just wants to talk to the engineers. So if the team is small and strong, then engineers and the code are the source of truth. And so they have the source of truth, not some manager, and he wants to talk to them to understand the actual state of things and what should be done to improve it. And also just like his large hammer and his willingness to exercise it within the organization. So maybe if he talks to the engineers and they bring up that, what's blocking you? Okay, I don't have enough GPUs to run my thing. And he's like, oh, okay. And if he hears that twice, he's going to be like, okay, this is a problem. So like, what is our timeline? And when you don't have satisfying answers, he's like, okay, I want to talk to the person in charge of the GPU cluster. And like someone dials the phone and he's just like, okay, double the cluster right now. Like, let's have a meeting tomorrow. From now on, send me daily updates until the cluster is twice the size. And then they kind of like push back and they're like, okay, well, we have this procurement set up, we have this timeline, and NVIDIA says that we don't have enough GPUs and it will take 6 months or something. And then you get a rise of an eyebrow. And then he's like, okay, I'm gonna talk to Jensen. And then he just kind of like removes bottlenecks. So I think the extent to which he's like extremely involved and removes bottlenecks and applies his hammer, I think is also like not appreciated. So I think there's like a lot of these kinds of aspects that are very unique, I would say, and very interesting. And honestly, like going to a normal company outside of that, you like definitely miss aspects of that. Maybe that's a long rant. I don't think I hit on all the points, but it is a very unique thing, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, I always love learning about his style of management because he's proven that he's able to outpace everyone. This is why he's not afraid to release everything he does for free. He releases his patents because nobody can keep up with him. He's got a system that works. The more you can learn to replicate what he does, the more you can replicate what he does.
There are 8 billion people on Earth, and it would be better if there were none.
That's dark.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, buddy, you can start with yourself.
Yeah,
if you really want to, make a difference. How about take your own advice here?
Oh, he's talking about Google.
But that's like a crazy viewpoint. That's like literally saying let's genocide humanity. I'm like, what? How can you say that with a straight face? That sounds like total madness. But people, like I said, in the limit of environmentalism, it sort of becomes like an ingrown toenail. It's sort of like, yeah, toenail's fine, but not if it's like warped and ingrown. It's just gone too far. Humanity's not a blight on the face of the earth.
That's right.
And frankly, even with climate change, life on Earth will still continue. The calamities that Earth has suffered, where life continued afterwards, like gigantic meteorite impacts, super volcanoes, the continents drifting all over the place. There have been times in Earth's past where it's been like a total snowball, or it's been absolutely sweltering hot. And life, we had many extinction events, but but life continued. We don't see the dinosaurs now, but they've had a good run for 100+ million years. So even if there's catastrophic climate change on Earth, life continues. It just may not be the life as we know it. It may not be humans. It'll be something else. So what we're talking about with climate change is not a threat to all life on Earth, but really maybe a threat to humans or a dislocation of humans if there's low-lying countries that the water level rises and now they're underwater type of thing. So I think one just needs to strike the right balance by saying, like, look, over time we need to move to a sustainable energy economy, and we can't just keep taking billions of tons of carbon from deep underground and putting it in the atmosphere and expect nothing will happen forever.
Yeah.
But we also don't need to be alarmist about it and super negative and massively disrupt people's lifestyles. I think people can continue to live a normal life.
Yes.
And they shouldn't be guilty about being human or sort of, frankly, having a steak. It's fine.
Yeah, it all, something that strikes me with that agenda as well, and people who push it, is it also seems like Western countries climbing the ladder and then pulling the ladder up after them, right? So when you have large developing nations, somewhere like India, lots of parts of Africa and so on, and it's like, okay, the Western nations have gone through this whole process to even get to a stage where you can afford to care about such things. You've got other nations that are developing and they're trying to get up to the level of prosperity that, say, the USA has right now. And you want them to care about the environment, but it's like people are still poor. People are not going to care about the environment until they've got their basic needs met. So there's a part of it where it's this, it's this sort of belief system that I think is very, what's the right term? It's almost like to to use a Rob Henderson term, it's like a luxury belief, right? You know, it's like, okay, it's all good for you to view things that way. But if you think about the average person in many parts of the developing world, they can't afford to be thinking this way. They still need to get up to at least the basic level that our countries are in.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I agree with what you just said, but I also think that the cost of sustainable energy has been dropping tremendously, and you're seeing a lot more wind and solar.
That's another thing that he's really good at is if you ask people about solar and batteries and electricity and stuff like that, you'll get a million reasons why it'll never work. He's built his career on things that'll never work and proved that they actually do work. It reminds me of that saying that science advances one funeral at a time. So as ignorance dies off, then advancements can proceed. We get in our own way. People, because they're incapable of imagining, are seeing the potential of something, which, believe it or not, I think is actually due to their brain structure. Is there are people who literally cannot imagine or see things visually. They cannot extrapolate into the future. You know, it's not a skill that everybody has. But they should never be, and this is why you should never let people actually stop you from advancing, is because they may not be capable of seeing the things that you can see. If you see something, you should pursue it. And that's where he excels, is he sees potential in things. He sees possibilities and he pursues them and he makes them a reality. Even though there's people who work against it, are advocates against it, and even PhDs and authorities who speak against it. PhD it really doesn't mean, all it means is you spent some time somewhere, paid people a bunch of money, and got a piece of paper.
And pair that with the battery, and you've got continuous power from wind and
may
solar.
Or may not be smart.
That's actually very competitive, so cost competitive. Actually, one of the nice things about, say, solar battery is you don't need to run high power lines all over the place. You can have some localized solar battery situation on your house or factory building, or you can kind of decentralize the power generation. And I think that's actually better for people to have decentralized power generation, and also decentralized communications. Like a lot of places, they skipped all the sort of phone landline stuff and went to cell phones.
Yes.
In fact, a lot of places in the world have way better cell connectivity than Silicon Valley, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
Wow. I like listening to his interviews.
All right, let's do the Linux driver test. So this is going to be the Linux driver test where we're telling it this computer, its name, the operating system it's running, and additionally the issue, which is that this keyboard is only set to orange when in Ubuntu. It should be able to be set to a number of different colors, as it does work that way in Windows. So make a small utility so I can change the RGB colors of this keyboard. Good, now I'll write a minimal kernel module, and again, it's going so quickly that I can't actually read it before it goes away. All right, it's loading module and it's going to cycle the keyboard colors. Let me get another camera.
You guys probably don't really care about this stuff. I really like this kind of stuff. I think he's demonstrating Grok code and how it's making changes at a kernel level in order to bring capabilities to a keyboard that's intended for Windows. So he's probably got a keyboard there that can change colors, and he's using it on a machine with a different type of operating system. He's demonstrating how Grok code is able to, in real time, modify the kernel so that the keyboard can work like it does in Windows, which is pretty cool. Gotta admit, that's really cool. All right, the road to AGI is to teach it to solve Kardashev type 2 problems. Elon says yes. Yep, keep humanity at the center. Grok 4.5 reviewed a full credit and security audit agreement stored in box, the kind of dense multi-section facility document that typically requires significant counsel time. Okay. All right. Oh, This is the bulletproof. This is the Cybertruck that saved the family during the 4th of July. Wow, is that all he posted? Wow. Technically, neither of them posted a lot today. Just took some time because we watched the videos, but we are at the 2-hour mark, and now we're done with the Daily Torment Report. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We read about Joshua, God giving them Jericho. Those who are faithful and believe in him are saved, and those who are evil and those who don't watch won't know what's happening. So, interesting day. Tomorrow we'll continue to look at the seals, I think, unless something comes up. Unless there's something we need to react to. Oh, there was something that I was going to react to. What was it? I don't know. If I think about it, we'll watch it tomorrow. But otherwise, we'll continue investigating the seals. Great Tribulation and the seals. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you like this kind of content, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications, and come back and visit me Monday through Friday. I try to go live Monday through Friday at 4:30 Pacific Time, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. God bless you guys, and shalom, shalom.
Our God is a mighty God. He stands eternal and strong, with power, justice, and truth. Our God is a mighty God. Our God is a mighty He stands eternal and strong, with iron and flame, justice forged in the void, light that crushes the dark. Our God is a mighty God. Heavens tear open, worlds tremble at his battle march. Every darkness, every tyrant, every curse will fall when the Messiah rises and announces the final call. He splits the seas with a roar like a lion, commands the legions in celestial advance. The lightning his hammer, the thunder he wields. He vanquishes evil and makes the broken healed. Our God is a mighty God. He stands